I'm Maria Chaleos from the KSL Greenhouse Show, heard Saturday mornings from 8 to 11. This year, I have become obsessed with succulents. They are so beautiful. There are so many fun things that you can do with succulents. We started the season with a centerpiece made out of a pumpkin and succulents, and that was super fun. And so this time around, we wanted to try doing a Christmas tree with succulents to see how it would turn out. So the first thing you have to think about when you're making a Christmas tree with succulents is, okay, where are you going to get your succulents? Do you have a large variety of succulents? Some succulents are better than others. For example, probably not going to want to use something that is too tall or is going to hang off the tree or kind of change its shape. So you really want to think about what type of succulents that you're going to use. Some of them just don't work very well for the project. You want to make sure that they're also the succulents that have the bigger leaves, that have the fuller leaves that hold more water. They will do better than the other succulents will do. I'm trying this go around just as an experiment because I love them so much and think they'll work great on a Christmas tree. Their survival rate, I'm not sure we're going to know at the end of the season just how well they do. Because really, truly, the ones with the leaves that hold more water do better in centerpieces and last a lot longer. So first you have to think about variety. Where are you going to get your succulents? You can buy succulents off the internet. They're inexpensive to buy as cuttings. I have this tray of cuttings just to give you an idea. They come in very small sizes because they're a cutting, right? And then you can just place them in the cactus soil to make sure that they grow and become larger. I'm going to use this little baby one for my star, which is going to go at the top of my tree. And then I can just show you exactly what these cuttings look like. So they're going to work better for smaller projects, but the cuttings are going to be too small to use all around the base of your tree. So I'm going to use this little guy as my star at the top. So again, the first thing you want to think about is the variety of succulents that you are going to want for your project. I have found all of these larger succulents at my local grocery store, local greenhouses, and I found them very inexpensively because it's the end of the season. So some of them I bought as low as $1. The cuttings, you can buy like 20 cuttings online for about $20, so you're paying, again, $1 a piece, and they're not quite as large. And then you have to think about, okay, the base of your tree. When I started the project, I thought, well, this would be really easy. I'm going to do this on a foam base, and I glued the moss to that. But then I started worrying, even though I've done centerpieces that lay flat, I was worried that my succulents wouldn't survive when the water is dripping off. Even though succulents need very little water, I just thought the survivability wouldn't be great. I'm going to try this as an experiment one day just to see what the survivability will be. So I opted instead to use chicken wire. Let me say that chicken wire is not fun. It's not one of those things I'm going to be doing a lot with. It has really sharp edges and they're very painful. It's pretty stiff, so it's hard to mold. But we did mold a tree. I used another styrofoam tree as kind of a pattern for it, and I did mold a tree out of it. And then this is what the final product looks like. So now I've taken the moss and I have filled the tree with moss, and then I have wired with this floral wire. And I know there's got to be an easier way to do it. I'm sure you'll come up with one. I've wired it with floral wire all the way around to keep the moss on there. So that's how I'm going to do that. Now I've soaked this and let it all drip off so that it's not soaked when we are going to do our project here. Then you need a base. I'm going to use an old china plate for my base today. And there goes the chicken wire. So I'm going to use that as my base. And the next thing you need to think about is I grouped all of my succulents in sizes so they'd be easy for me to work with. And here I have my larger succulents that are going to go around the bottom. And then I have the smaller ones. They're going to go around the top. You want to make sure and start with the larger ones at the bottom. If you don't do that, your tree is going to lose its shape and it's going to be kind of an odd shape. So you want to start with the bottom and do the larger succulents at the bottom. What you'll need for this project, I am using these little floral clips that I made myself just out of floral wire. You can buy them. I found these really cheap at Walmart, so I decided I'd just make my own instead of going in search of the others. So you're going to need a wire cutter, something. You're going to again need the sheet moss to put on your tree. And then you just need to separate out your succulents. I have done some of these just to make it faster for the video, but I want to show you as well how you'll want to separate these. Let's see, I'm going to choose this guy. So this is usually how they come, how the plants come. Oh, and he's going to be stubborn. And I'm going to pull him out of there. Like I said, I've done a lot of these just to save us some time. And you're going to want to, succulents can be very tender, so depending on the kind you're using, you'll want to be careful when you do this. This one's pretty hardy. It's not going to go anywhere. So you separate all the soil off of there until you have a nice base. And so you can see this part is the part that's going to form the roots. You can wash off the soil if you want to. It is going onto moss, so you're not going to see some of it. And I'm going to keep a few of the little roots on there just to help boost the longevity of my tree. Then you want to clear enough of the leaves at the base off. Again, so you have enough of that base to put inside the tree there. So it's going to look something like that. Or it's going to look something like these for the bigger succulents. You can see that I've started collecting a few leaves. I've started propagating succulents. They're really easy to propagate. So I'm going to save these and I'm going to grow some new plants with those, and we'll have a video on that in the next couple of months. Okay, so I'm going to start at the base. I'm going to need something to poke a hole in the base to put my succulent in. I'm going to start with this one. Have to be a little bit gentle. You don't want to break or bruise the leaves of your plant. Try and tuck it in there where the wire isn't. And I'm going to take one of these clips and I'm going to pull it around the base and help position it in the bottom. I'm not really happy with how that's going through the chicken wire here. Just trying to be careful not to bruise the plant. Okay, and you'll go to your next one and do the same thing. Decide kind of where you want it. And you'll be able to rearrange the moss a little bit at the end if it starts to come off. Try to decide what this is going to look like. Again, trying to be careful not to break the succulent or bruise the leaves. I'm not sure how many succulents this will take, so by the end of the project, we'll both know. Again, be patient with it. You don't want to bruise the succulent. Which is tough for me because I have no patience, but I'm working on it. I might just put that one on the outside like that. You're going to see very quickly why it costs about $150 to buy a tree this size made out of succulents. It takes a lot of plants, first of all. feeling for the hole in the chicken wire as well. So you can see how it's starting to form along the base. I don't want that right next to that one. I'm just trying to use a variety. So my thought process is just the biggest ones at the bottom and then just trying to mix them up so there's a variety of plants. I've actually seen trees where they've tried to coordinate how the different varieties are used. So there's a pattern. You'll have to order the plant specifically for that if that's what you plan to do. So I continue to work my way around, making sure that these succulents kind of stay in there. And you can see how it's starting to look actually like a tree. Using a variety of the different succulents. Try not to let my little pins show. I'm learning more and more that I'm not loving the chicken wire. I'm going to bet next time I try a project like this, because I love projects, it's going to be with styrofoam instead of chicken wire. The smaller succulents are definitely easier with the chicken wire. Toward the base, it was a little bit more challenging to make sure that the succulents were staying in the tree without damaging them. So it's a teeny bit frustrating. Again, this is a project. If you don't have a lot of patience, this may not be a project for you. It certainly is fun when you start seeing it come together. Actually look like a tree, and you just keep making your way around, making sure that your tree doesn't lose its shape as you go. Let's see what I'm doing. And I'm just trying to vary the different kinds of succulents that I'm using in the project. Don't necessarily want more than one of the same together. Yeah, the smaller ones are definitely easier than the larger ones. That I will say. Another tip for you is to keep your moss wet so it doesn't start to fall off. And once all the succulents are on there, it'll all stay put. Gonna need a few more. Didn't want to waste the plants if I didn't need them, but obviously you can see it takes quite a few plants to do this project. And I've seen people not put as many succulents. So really the number of succulents that you put in your project is up to you. You can leave just, bare moss in spots. I think the fun thing about these projects is it's really up to you, your creativity, your style. You don't have to do it the way I'm doing it. I'm just giving you some tips that I have learned, hopefully to make it a little easier for you. And I'll just continue to work my way around till I get to the top, using smaller and smaller succulents as I go. So as we move through the project and we get closer to the top, I'm going to use some of the smaller items that I have, some of the cuttings that I've been growing in my house here. So I'm going to add those to the top because they're much smaller. You can see how they're going to fare much better toward the top of the tree since they're smaller. As you continue to put your succulents in and move towards the top, it gets more difficult. One thing that you'll start to notice is that some of the succulents will start pushing out because some of your floral pins will have moved them just a little bit. So don't be afraid to go back in and make sure that they're in there snugly. And then as you get toward the top, make sure you have a place to hold as you're putting in the final succulents. Then once you've done, and you pretty much have a completed project like this, you can see that I've started putting in some berries. I bought this Gualtheria plant just for this purpose. And so I have been taking little berries, I've been taking little cuttings from this, basically just snipping so that I have a little branch part. And some of these will just fit in perfectly. But what you're going to do is take the little floral pin, and you don't have to use berries. You can just use a complete succulent tree, and you can do pretty much what you want. You can add little pine cones if you don't want to use as many succulents as I've used here. You can put a star ornament on the top. I've tried to basically make it look like there's a star on the top. And then you'll need to actually fill in some of the spaces around the top so that your wire doesn't show. But basically you're going to take those berries and you're just going to find, just weave the floral pin in there just a little bit so that it's going to hold once you put it inside your tree. I'm going to take a look because I know there are a couple of spots that I left just so I could show you. So, and then I'm going to just push the little floral pin in very gently so I'm not hurting any of the other plants. And again, you're going to have to reinforce some of these when you're done because some of them just kind of get pushed out. But be very gentle, making sure that you don't, break these little plants. So when you're done, you're going to make sure and give it a nice little shower. And that's what you're going to do about every 7 to 10 days to make sure that these little succulents stay alive and are healthy. So if this is something you just want for the season, make sure you keep it in indirect sunlight. The kitchen is a great place. This kitchen has a lot of light, so it works well in here. And again, just water every 7 to 10 days. Now, there are more than 200 succulents on this tree. So when you're planning, you really need to think about that. What types of succulents you're going to use, and like I said, make sure you use the ones with the plumper leaves. There are just a ton of varieties that you can use. I actually did move a few of these around. I found that I had too many of the hens and chicks in one place, so I did a little bit of rearranging, and don't be afraid to do that. Just make sure that you aren't damaging the little plants as you do that. And then you can do whatever your creative mind tells you. You could add a string of LED lights if you really wanted to. I think the tree is just beautiful the way it is. I think it would be beautiful even without the berries. So if you didn't have one of these little bushes to pull from. I've also seen a lot of floral shops have little berries that you can choose that they put in their centerpieces that you can use. So my takeaways on this project is you have to have patience, because you have to take the time to make sure you're not damaging the plant as you're putting together your tree. So give yourself at least a couple of hours to do this project. My other takeaway is I would not have used this type of chicken wire. It works. I made it work, and it was the only thing I could find at the store when I went there. But if you use a chicken wire that has the larger holes, it'll make it much easier for you to insert your succulents into the chicken wire. Like I said, it works, but it's a little frustrating. And other than that, it's a gorgeous project. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoy putting together your fun tree.